Alright everyone, good morning. Hope everyone's having a great day. Today I've been wanting to talk about a special shoe, a controversial shoe, and something that has been on my mind of late. And that is the Nike Alphafly Next Percent. This shoe was first publicly revealed back in the fall of 2019 when Eliud Kipchoge was making his second attempt for a sub 2-hour marathon at the Ineos 159 Challenge. And almost immediately, once people started seeing the shoe, people started speculating, wondering if there were 3 plates instead of the normal 1 plate, whether or not the shoe should be legal. And it got so much attention that it was eventually deemed by the World Athletic Association that they had to set limits on new racing shoes coming out after the shoe was unveiled to people. The shoe did qualify. The limitations were really just it could only have 1 plate and it could only be a max of 40 millimeter stack height, which the Alphafly did meet. And then around the time of the US Olympic trials, the Alphafly was first released to Nike Plus members to first purchase. And I was actually lucky enough to be able to get my hands on a pair. And I was really excited because these were actually the first pair of a carbon plated racer I ever had. I never had the 4% or Next Percents. So I was really excited to get my hands on these, and I was able to put in a decent amount of miles on these shoe. Nothing crazy. I just remember the first time I put this shoe on, the first thing that came to mind was just like, I felt like I was walking on moon shoes. Since then I've run in these a couple times, and I've kind of been able to form my opinion, and I kind of wanted to talk about that today. So before I get into my opinions and everything, I thought I'd go over just the specs of the shoe. So the Nike Alphafly Next Percent is a carbon-plated road racing shoe. It has a 40 millimeter stack height in the heel and a 36 millimeter stack height in the forefoot, so you got that 4 millimeter drop. And then it comes in 7.4 ounces for men's size 9 and 6.5 ounces for women's size 8. So the positives I have about the shoe actually are very good. I loved the upper and the lacing of this shoe. I really liked the adamant upper. I thought it felt really well. It was light, it was breezy, and my favorite thing about the shoe is the laces. I think every running shoe should have laces like these. If you can see, I don't know if you can see, right? They're kind of bumpy, which just helps them hold their knots, and I've never had a shoe like this. Shoe never comes untied, and it's really nice actually. In terms of what I like about the shoe, that's actually kind of where it stops. I don't dislike this shoe by any means, but there are areas that I think could have been worked on or tweaked. And the first thing for me is when I put the shoe on, I don't feel stable in it. When I run around the corner in the shoe, I feel like my ankle is going to just bust and just be completely done. And I just think I can't exactly explain why, because I have run in the Endorphin Pro since purchasing the shoe, which has a 39 millimeter stack height in the heel, and I feel much, much more stable in a shoe like that, even though the stack height difference is literally just 1 millimeter. I think it partly has to do with the narrowness in the midsection of the foot, and I also think obviously it has to do with the Zoom AirPods, which are my next gripe with the shoe. So, I think I see what the team behind designing the shoe was going for. You had the Nike Next Percent, which was phenomenal. People loved it. It was like the top running shoe for marathoners. And, they had to sit down and say, okay, how do we improve? How do we go beyond that? And, they took the Zoom AirPods that they had I think they came from Jordan's, and they said, well, it's essentially just a spring, and let's put it on there, I guess. I don't know. But to me, it's just like this doesn't look like a running shoe to me. Like, this looks more like a basketball shoe in a sense, with these AirPods at the bottom, and it's just over-engineered for me. It's just like there's too much going on. You know, I think obviously if they had just gotten rid of the AirPods and kept it with the full Zoom X foam, you'd essentially have what is eventually probably going to be the Next Percent 2, which I believe Nike is going to start selling sometime this year in 2021, but it's too much, and I see what they were going for, but you know, personally, it's not for me. Some people might like it, some people, the first time I put this shoe on, you know, I felt like I was wearing springs. And I can say my 5K PR and my 10K PR, I ran in these shoes. And it was great. But also, like, it just didn't feel, the more I ran in it, the more it felt weird. And obviously, you know, these are a $275 shoe. I'm not gonna run in these every day to the point where it becomes normal. You know, people who are sponsored by Nike might have that opportunity, but for everyday Joe Schmoes like you and I, you know, that's just not a reality we can do. But aside from the midsole, the AirPods, the other issue I had with this shoe is I always had blisters on my Achilles whenever I wore this shoe. I'm not sure if it was like the little padding that Nike put in there, or if it was just the way the shoe fit me, but the heel counter, which is very sturdy, which some people like, you know, it always was rubbing against my Achilles, and every time I ran the shoe, my Achilles would be bleeding by the end of it, and that would just cause an issue for weeks to come, because I had to keep running in shoes, then they would just rub against it. But yeah, overall, you know, the Alphafly, I think, is the kind of shoe that is going to fit to a particular person. Maybe if you're someone with a bit of a slender foot, it might not feel as unstable. But for me, it just was, you know, I felt wobbly on it. And I think there are other shoes out there that will give you a similar propulsion, similar feel, but they'll feel more stable. For example, the Endorphin Pro. But yeah, overall, those are my thoughts. I will say too, though, I do think it held up well. The rubber on the bottom held up very, very well. It's been a long time since I've actually run in these, so the Zoom X foam has actually gotten pretty stiff. Not as soft as it once was, but I think that's more of just a side effect of them just sitting by idle. But yeah, so those are just my thoughts on the Nike Alphafly. I thought I'd give a little talk about it, since, you know, they've been out for about a year now, and Nike's starting to gear up to unveil their Nike Next Percent 2, which seems to have not an Atom Knit upper, but a similar one, which I am excited about. But yeah, overall, it's an okay shoe. I think there are better options. You know, the Next Percent, Endorphin Pro. Those are the two that I can speak for. But, you know, to each their own. And, you know, the last thing I'll say is it's clunky. You know, the shoe, and, you know, like I said before, the shoe weighs in at about 7.4 ounces, which is actually pretty similar to the Endorphin Pro, but for me, this just feels a lot clunkier. You know, it has a really wide forefoot, and the high stack height and the AirPods, it's really big, and it kind of feels like clown shoes a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, so those are my thoughts on the Nike Alphafly Next Percent. Comment down below, what do you think? Are you excited for the Next Percent 2? Are you excited for a different type of carbon racing shoe? Or are you against the whole carbon racing shoe trend in general? But make sure you leave a thumbs up, Make sure you subscribe. It will really help, and I would really appreciate it. And I will see you all later this week for another workout. And thanks again for watching.